The Munsters trailer might have been one of the most disappointing of 2022, but how does the actual movie fare? What's up, everyone? I am Wink.
And I am Skillz.
And this is Scream Cheese, and the time has arrived. We are doing the review of the very infamous Munsters, directed by Rob Zombie, starring Daniel Phillips, Sheri Moon Zombie, and Daniel Roebuck. We did a trailer reaction where, most people said this trailer wasn't very good. I agree that the trailer wasn't very good, but it really grew on me to the point where I got really excited for this movie. How did it fare? What do you think, dude? What do we need to know about this movie, Skillz?
I don't know where to start, man. So, a couple of positives. One, I will say that it was shot really nice. I actually like the way it was shot. I like the sets a lot. I thought that was cool. I feel like the actors that portrayed Lily and Herman and Grandpa, I actually liked them. The problem was that there was no script. The plot was dull. There was no plot. I mean, there was, but it was just silly stuff. And when it was all said and done, it just was a bad film. The crazy thing is, I didn't hate it for some weird reason. The next day after watching it, you kind of have that carryover feeling. And I'm like, man, I kind of like those actors playing those characters. It's too bad that it was such a bad script and a bad story and a bad film. I liked the guy that played Herman Munster a lot more than I thought I would. He was the only character that ever made me slightly chuckle. But yeah, it was a bad film. I have other things to say about it, but Wink, what were your thoughts on it? What was your experience watching it?
Yeah, man, I feel like we're kind of mind melded here because I'm lockstep with you. So I'll say one of the more interesting things for me about this is the fact that where I had hope with the trailer, it was kind of a bad trailer. And I agree with you, this was actually a bad movie, but it wasn't bad for the reasons that the trailer was bad. The trailer had technical errors and things. Dude, I agree with you. The movie actually looked really great to me. It was shot really well. All the colors and things were really good. I will say no amount of black and white would have made this movie any better. In fact, I believe in black and white, this movie suffers. It's a really beautiful looking film, I think. I love the characters. I thought that they were all really good. The movie really suffers, like you said, with the plot. There is virtually no plot. It literally is just events taking place. Things happen, things happen, things happen. There are a couple points of conflict that they don't even really use. There is the brother character's conflict. It's just kind of tossed. It could have brought a little bit of urgency, but it doesn't really. And then towards the end of the movie, you have kind of the conflict of regular humans being scared of the main characters. But then the last plot point makes it so oh, well, we don't even have to really interact with normal people if we don't want to, or we could sparingly, but it doesn't really matter because the movie's over. It's I don't know, we would only really have to tackle that if we got a sequel. They very much should have leaned into marketing it as an origin story. That's what it was. It's not the greatest love story ever told. It's literally, we're gonna tell you the origin story of the show that you loved or whatever. I think that might have helped, at least in its advertising.
Yeah, so dude, first of all, I love the way it was shot, but I have a very strong suspicion that if this film was in black and white and had a laugh track, it would have helped it a lot. But those are just my subjective opinions on it.
I mean, how does that help something that doesn't have a plot, man?
Well, I was just about to say, it needs to have a story. You could reduce everything in this entire film to a 22-minute sitcom, and maybe it would work. But it was just so extended, and the problem with it is I would actually love to see another film with the three key actors. There was something about them that I enjoyed, but it just never, well, yeah, we're just repeating ourselves now. Yeah. The story wasn't there.
No, and I completely agree. I would love to see a well-written piece with these same actors playing these characters. If there was just a conflict that they had to resolve instead of just going from point to point to point. One last thing that I think is a huge negative for the film, I get the kind of television television cartoony sound effects and score sometimes, it didn't work. They were trying to set a tone that wasn't happening. Half of the score worked really well, and half of it was just too cartoony. Lean into what is cool about what you're doing. Don't like ham it up when it doesn't even feel that hammy.
Also, I loved
Sheri Moon Zombie.
Yeah,
I didn't want to
Sheri
get
Moon
into
Zombie.
this anymore because I feel like we're such fucking
didn't wanna
simps.
get-
But
I didn't wanna
she
get in-
is, she's good, dude. She's literally good.
I didn't want to get into it because I know we've seen it even in the comment section and around the internet. People have issues with her. I love her.
I do
thought she
too.
was great in this role. I liked spending time with her.
I do
And I
too.
liked spending time with all of them. Herman was actually endearing and lovable to me.
I
and
agree.
I went into it with apprehensions because of the difference in his voice. But he was doing this thing where his voice would kind of crack. I felt like he did such a good job of portraying this character. And it just sucks because you're sitting these characters on top of a weak storyline. I've repeated myself for a third time.
So
All right, bye, guys.
what do you give it out of 10, Kills?
I'm looking at my notes and I have a 4, but as we're talking about it, I realize how much I really like the characters, and so I'm gonna give it a 4.7.
I'm going to be extremely generous, and I'm going to give it a 6. 6.0.
Okay.
And that is
Cool.
generous. And dude, like, Rob Zombie doesn't really deserve that from me. I have a lot of faith in him. I like what he does generally, but in fact, the last 2 movies I've seen of his are The Munsters and Lords of Salem, and both of them suffer from the same freaking problem, dude. Bad script. Maybe it's time to not write your own stuff, man. You have a really great eye. You have great cast. You have a great aesthetic. There are people who spend their lives learning how to write good stories. Go grab one of their stories and do something amazing with it. I think maybe it's time for that, man.
That's a great point for Mr. Zombie because we see other directors suffer from this, and he is the perfect example of we're talking about because he brings a lot to the table. But there's a point where you say like, hey, let me go grab this guy over here who's known in the industry as an incredible writer, and he just happens to love the Munsters too.
Yeah.
That guy is out there somewhere. If Steven Spielberg can hire people to write screenplays that he directs, then Mr. Rob Zombie can do the same.
Also, he could just write a better script because literally the only thing that was missing was any conflict whatsoever. And
Absolutely.
Like that's
Huge,
all
yeah.
you needed to do is like present some conflict. Having Grandpa just not like Herman is not conflict, especially when he's just going to like him later or deal with him and it just doesn't become an issue anymore. All right, well, let us know what you thought of the Munsters. Are we onto something here? Did we completely miss it? Was something happening that we don't understand? Let us know in the comments. Also, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and suggest some of your favorite horror movies in the comment section below. We're going to continue our conversation on Patreon, so if you want to see any more thoughts that we had about the film, or you just want to support us, head over to Patreon and consider doing that. All right, folks, we will see you next time. Peace out, cheesers.
Peace.